Babatunde, Happy New Year. I wanted to respond this way because I don't believe text is a great way to convey the kind of information that I think you deserve with respect to your reaction on Twitter in this last post. Uh, I just want to say you have a great name. I mean, you have an awesome name, and it is no accident that you have that name. And so, with that, I'd like to give you a little idea of who I am and what happened to me. I was 1976. I was 12 years old. I watched Cecil B. DeMille's The Ten Commandments, and although it is not a completely accurate portrayal of Moses and what had happened during that time, it did, as an impressionable young man, do something very important for me, and it was to set me on a particular path. Here I was, looking at society, being 12, and wondering, wow, a significant portion of the population believe in this being that they call God. And me having a little bit higher intelligence, I approached it as as a scientist, because I was largely agnostic, and always understanding that, wait a minute, there's a lot of people that believe this, and there's things that just don't make sense from that perspective, from a purely empirical sense, especially with what was going on with me, and when I was a really young child, understanding that there was a presence in my experience. And so, in watching, there was a particular scene in the movie that I thought was very compelling. It was the part where Moses, or the Charlton Heston plays this character. Moses looks up on the mountain and sees a burning bush and is talking to Joshua. And they talk about the fact that it's forbidden to go up there, and there's a burning bush. Yes, the bush is alight, but it doesn't burn. And then of course Moses says, I want to see this miracle. Okay, well, he just broke everybody's rule, right? You're not supposed to go on the holy mountain. It's forbidden. Okay, so here was Moses breaking a rule. And so what does he do? Well, he communes. He is then atoned, and then communes directly with the being that men call God. At which point, being a 12-year-old kid, I thought that was totally awesome. And I'm thinking, wow, how, if all these people believe that this is actually possible, how come nobody's doing it? And so I was very serious, and I was very passionate. And so I asked a question. What do I need to do to be able to do what Moses did? What do I need? Now, if it were the case that this being that God does not, this being that men call God did not exist, then there would be a no answer to that. Little did I know that this being would spend 30 years teaching me what I needed to know. And throughout that entire 30-year period, I had no idea that I was going through it until that moment on July 4th at 4:44 a.m. 2006, when that being provided the last few secrets and instruction that allowed me to do exactly that. Now, of course, there is some embellishment. People don't understand what that actually is like. It is as profound as what happened in the movie, but there are some differences. I will say that those types of experiences totally transform a man into something else. Anyone who experiences that is transformed into something else, something better, something more robust. And so here it was. I never expected to get to a different path following the path that everybody else has chosen. And society has very conveniently made it extremely difficult to get to that place. So you must unlearn everything that you've learned. And when you made your comment, when you say, wow, that's strange, when I decided, and when I told you that when you said that, government provides the humanistic society provides government, and that's the humanistic aspect. And then you had church providing the spiritualist government. And the fact that you said, oh, well, you're just throwing millennia of wisdom, aside, with your comment of, where I said that, it's useless to man. And the reason I'm discarding a millennia of wisdom is because there's a whole bunch of people out there walking around that are not atoned, that are not in communion. They're not having the Moses experience ever in their life. In fact, you've got people like, the leader of the Holy Roman Church saying that he at times has doubts that God exists. That's not a spiritual leader. That's an abomination. We need spiritual leaders. Now, the difference between my experience and other people's experiences, I was specifically directed to provide people exactly what they need to actually replicate their experience in their own experience, in their own life. People have done that. The mechanism is called the cheat sheet Mark 5. You read it out loud to yourself. That's the only way it works. Why? You need to hear the stuff in your own voice. Otherwise, you can't get it. It doesn't make sense to you. If you read it passively, guess what? Ego can filter that all the information out. It'll seem weird. You won't understand it. It'll be cryptic. You won't get it. Most people can't even read it. They don't realize that it's not a function of their will. Hey, guess what? They don't decide things here. This is a deterministic universe. It's a great test. If you cannot read the cheat sheet out loud, out to yourself, you're not ready to have the experience that Moses did. Now, once people read the cheat sheet, Mark 5, that's just the beginning. There are other things that need to take place for you to get to that point. But man, you have to clear out the headgear first. You have to get to a point where you can actually receive the kind of information that I'm going to talk about, because it's incredibly nuanced. Incredibly nuanced. And when they say, hey, it's a narrow path, oh, they mean it. You have no idea how narrow that path is. One little bit off, and boy, you could be in a 20-year educational process before you're rolled back around to try it again. So when I say these things are useless, I found them to be useless. Why? Because I tried all of it. That's why it took 30 years. I listened to the other people who I thought were spiritual leaders. They got me nowhere. But I had to experience it. Why? Because Almighty God wanted to make darn sure I knew what not to do. I want you to have a happy new year, and I hope this finds you well. Have a good day.